Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Renegade Operative, and I will be doing a review of Silent Hill: The Short Message. It's gonna kind of be a shotgun review. It's not gonna be something that's heavily edited. It's gonna be off the cuff, so once again, forgive me if any mistakes are made. Let's go to the beginning. We have to talk about the conception of this short message and why it came to be. I know it was leaked initially beforehand. Like, we saw pictures, we saw the Sakura head, and we were wondering, like, when are we gonna get this, since this game was rated for Korea? So I think it was supposed to be out long ago if it was rated long ago. We heard rumblings about this game that we're gonna get a free demo to play as a new story, and this is it right here. Apparently Konami, the publishers behind Silent Hill, they approached various studios in order to outsource and revive Silent Hill yet again. And one of the studios was Hexadrive, and Hexadrive was generous enough to create a Silent Hill 2 vertical slice of their own caliber that's very reminiscent to the original game, just updated, refined, and they made their own vertical slice of this demo. Konami apparently wasn't really that thrilled about it. I think what happened was they decided to go with Bloober Team's pitch. That pitch from Bloober Team was something that was resonating with them a lot more, and they decided to drop the Hexadrive Silent Hill 2 remake idea entirely. Their pitch was dropped. Then fast forward a little bit later, a Konami executive said, hey, we liked your ideas well enough to work on a completely new rendition of Silent Hill for a demo, so let's just do that. And that's when this game was born. One of the main things I need to talk about is the story. The story of this game is very dark. It's one of the, Silent Hill is known for having these like dark, melancholy, a very subtle post-traumatic stress and ideas and serious topics about unaliving or sexual assault, just a bunch of things that really calls into action what the town does, the fears of everyone else, and how the psychological torment is presented in its rawest form. And it does not hold back, it does not hold any punches. But the main thing you need to notice here is Silent Hill always focused on subtlety, and these events being brought to life by symbolism. It's a lot of symbolism in the series. You need to pay attention to understand the key cues of Silent Hill. Let me give you a quick synopsis of the plot line before we continue. So from what I gather, you play as a character named Anita, and she suffers from a lot of depressive episodes. You will see it, and her best friend is Maya, who is a painter. She's called Cherry Blossom around the community within her school, and this takes place in Germany. As we go along, we are in this villa where a lot of people have known it to be an unaliving dump so far. It's very popular, it's a hot spot for this, and you start to get rumblings of this in the story fairly early on. As we continue on, we see there's clearly a phenomenon taking place. What you will see is you'll see the environment change, just like a signature Silent Hill flare. You'll see notes scribbled around that doesn't make sense. You'll see the story intertwined, saying that this person jumped off of this building and this is exactly what happened. It's very fucked up stuff in the beginning, and I thought it was kind of interesting presentation as we went along. Once you understand that your best friend Maya is dead, then that's when the main character Anita jumps off a building, and then we get introduced into a Silent Hill loop. The story then repeats itself over and over until you find it. You don't know what it means, you don't know what any of this means, you just get told this by your dead best friend on your cell phone, and the cell phone is, like, once again integrated in the story, for better or worse. And then there's this other girl named Amelie, and she sort of is a support, and she gives like dialogue through the story, and then you find out and unravel bits as you go along. You will see that there were people that were bullied and influenced by this Silent Hill phenomenon to either guide you, steer you in the right direction, and punish you in certain moments, because there is a Sakura head creature chasing you around. Then you get to like a part where you discover Anita's personal trauma and what she dealt with in school and what she's seeing live before her very eyes, whether it's dealing with an altercation of school kids vandalizing her desk and everything, and that seems very reminiscent of Alessa Gillespie. Long story short, family trauma, which I'm going to talk about later, rears its ugly head for Anita, and she has to escape. All the while you're still getting bombarded by text messages from Maya, once again signifying this weird dreamlike state where it doesn't seem like she's dead. She appears and she starts talking about either her career or what she likes to do or hobbies or her interests, and then you start to understand that you see that Anita is selfish in moments, like she withheld secrets from her friends and she had jealousy, and that starts to once again pioneer and rear its ugly head because of Silent Hill. So the embodiment of fears are still being chewed on within this story. At the end, you then see at the end that once again she's contemplating once more to either jump, and she decides not to, and then there's this vista of beauty that starts to encompass the entire scene, and then she understands Maya's death. She understands that her friends didn't hate her, and there's a lot of peaceful resolution, and then it ends there. They do have like symptoms of occultism because apparently a witch caused this after she was burned, and then there's the whole Silent Hill phenomenon, which is another thing that some people might dig, some people might hate, but I cover it in the character section later on. Overall, you know, it's kind of point A to point B, but in Silent Hill fashion, while they are being very blunt, so to speak. What this game does story-wise is they decide to hit the nail a little bit close on the head. Now, I understand the topic of bullying and the topic of unaliving and social media, they are very relevant and dark topics and true topics. Like, I understand some kids out there, some people that bully are complete assholes. Like, we've experienced this before in high school. We've experienced these people where they will pick on you for no apparent reason, and this holds true in the story. Like, the main character deals with this shit in real time, and it's very like harrowing as a narrative, but it is like very, knock on wood, obvious when you see these plot threads, and it doesn't have that same like sort of hidden subtlety and symbolism that Silent Hill is really known for. And I think the writing sort of suffers from that just a little bit, because again, I can resonate with the topic. I understand the topic. The topic is not really presented in the most like horrible way. It's not as horrible as I thought it would be, because, you know, you have to handle a situation like this with class. It can't be tacky. It can't be like something that's, oh, well, you know, knock on wood, it's something they're not treating seriously. They do treat the topic seriously, but again, it's like former Silent Hill games, they did this and it was just handled and presented better, and I think that's the main issue with some of the writing in this, is like the characters feel like they go through the same stereotypical motions within the plot, and you know, you even have a situation where it's like, oh, well, the main character has been abused, and you see it coming from a mile away at the end of the demo. And I was just like, okay, it's kind of cliche in a sense. Family, domestic violence in a plot like this, very straightforward. But again, you have older games that did it much better. And there are moments where the plot really shines through just a little bit. Like, you understand, you have this situation where you're going through lockers and you see these shadows like picking and bullying the main characters, and you're just feeling like the weight of that situation. I also thought the ending was well done. I thought it was a hopeful sigh of relief and kind of like strong in a sense, where she didn't have to jump. She doesn't have to jump anymore. She finally has the confidence to not do it. She saved herself, and it's very powerful as the entire evil, the sticky notes referencing self-harm and everything else that is akin to bad juju begins to dissipate from everywhere, and you get a more brighter ending as opposed to this abysmal darkness that strangleholds like everything in Silent Hill. And that's one of the main things that I actually did enjoy. I like the ending of this demo a lot. As for the unaliving thing, it does permeate throughout the story a lot, even to the point where the supposed Silent Hill phenomenon takes over, and they completely draw you into the town the first time that Anita, the main character, jumps off a roof. She does it like various times, and the town keeps calling her back, and then you see the main character, she gets a call from her friend Maya. They constantly say, oh, you have to find it, you have to find it, and it's left very ambiguous and vague as to what you need to find in order to escape this Silent Hill phenomenon. The way the phenomenon happens, you know, it's a hot take, but I do think it's kind of interesting. Now, most people will say Silent Hill deserves to stay in Silent Hill, Maine. It doesn't need to be anywhere else. It doesn't need to be in some random rural town of Germany, but that's where it is. And I believe this is going to be the setup for Silent Hill F and how they have the Silent Hill phenomenon happen in Japan. And I think that's cool to have this, like, what is causing this particular phenomenon? Why are people experiencing it? And truth be told, like, we saw South Ashfield kind of get like sort of fucked up and heads just rolling up in these sort of parallel worlds that Silent Hills was gonna probably try to cover. So it's not uncommon to see the plot progressed to this point. So that's one thing I actually did really enjoy. For the topic and the serious topics, I kind of got it. It was kind of relevant. If people have been through this before, I think it's going to resonate a little bit with them more. But for those people that prefer the sophisticated writing of the previous Silent Hills, then you're probably going to be just a little bit disappointed at how it's all just, you know, laid to bear in a sense. Now, the gameplay itself, the gameplay is once again first person, so it's kind of like an emulation of PT, where they're trying to implement these modernized mechanics of, oh, you have a phone now and you can use the phone to be alerted by enemies. It makes a large static noise similar to the radio in Silent Hill, where you get close to someone and you manage to find someone and then you run away. There's no combat in here, so you're mostly just running away from things, but it tries to do this whole first person stuff, and some parts are kind of cool, like the first encounter with the Sakura head, but then you just realize that you're on repeat threads yet again, running from the same monster with gates just crawling up out of the woodwork. And they don't try to do much to sway in original scares, I believe. And that's the term I want to use. They don't try enough originality. The end segment is just a fetchathon where you're trying to collect pieces of a picture in order to escape from the Sakura head. And while it's like a really pulse-pounding segment, I thought it got like monotonous. I thought it got repetitive after quite some time, which I didn't really feel with PT, even though PT doesn't have like big set piece encounters. What it makes up with is the fact that, you know, Lisa is a triggered event, and they show through each loop gradually something is off. Like, things get more dilapidated and worse, and each loop just gets worse than the next. And I think that's what Silent Hill the short message kind of lacks. Like, in most segments of gameplay, you're kind of going through some similar motions in differing areas, and while things do change, I feel like they didn't do enough to distinguish itself out from the crowd that did a lot more with better and more varied set pieces. Overall, though, the gameplay's not bad. They just had an idea in execution which they could have had a lot more variety with, and that's why I don't think that this lives up to Kojima's wacky, bizarre, and also ultimately frightening experience of PT, because the scares just get diminished when you realize you could just full sprint out a door and run from the enemy. While I did have situations where I got like auto killed by the Sakura head, it eventually just got a little bit monotonous. It didn't feel like surprising after a small amount of time, and that's a little bit disappointing. But as a functioning game and streamers, it's a screamer streamer game. You're gonna have like a sort of decent time with it. Overall, you're gonna be a little bit on edge, and it accomplishes that horror to that extent. I just wish that it was a lot more varied in set pieces. That being said, graphics look great, not much to say there. It looks pretty cool. I didn't notice any hitching or bugs or performance problems. All that is fine, easy peasy, great. And the voice acting was okay. It wasn't anything super stellar. It wasn't anything like, oh well, Academy Award winning A-tier script writing in terms of how the characters present their speech and everything, or how it mirrors, you know, old Silent Hill dialogue, which is kind of is like up and down at best. It's just readily decent, and it's not some of the worst acting I heard, but there's definitely moments where they could have dragged out a lot more from the main character. I did feel that even though she fit the depressive mold, she could have been a lot more exuberant in her characterization, and there's been people that had a lot of vocal range from, you know, sad to depressed, hitting all the notes and making those lines sound like very empathetic. But in this one, I didn't really feel all that. I didn't feel the hardened emotion at times that I should have felt for this character, even though there were times where I felt it and times where it kind of went in and out at the same time. And as for overall lasting impact, I think this was a decent play. It was longer than I expected it to be, but definitely it is a mixed bag. It has some good and it has some bad to it. When I went through my playthrough, you get like about 2 hours out of this demo, so if you're a screamer streamer, you're gonna have a little bit of a decent time with it. At the same time, if you're looking for more depth and symbolism out of Silent Hill, and there's some events in here that's quite funny how they reference COVID, so it kind of dates itself just a little bit, but you know, you're probably going to be thinking to yourself like it could have been done on a deeper level. But I also resonate and kind of fuck with it because I've been through this situation as well. It's just overall okay. It's the most okay demo I think I ever played in my life. That's saying something. It's not the worst dumpster fire I played in the world, but it's certainly not like equivalent to anything that the original Silent Hill 2 did on scares, and it's definitely not the next PT. That is a damn fact for sure. If you want like a true first-person scary Silent Hill experience, go download the real PT experience or PT emulation on PC and play that. But if you want something, you know, that's like decent, but it definitely does hammer on the unaliving thing a lot, then you could play this if you can handle the topic at hand, as well as, you know, noting the fact that it does get repetitive in gameplay, despite asking like you're gonna be playing this for like 2 hours. It's like Silent Hill the short message turned into Silent Hill the 2-hour experience. That's how it felt to me. But yeah, I would love to see Hexadrive make another Silent Hill game that's a little bit more well paced with better level design in the future. I think they have the potential to make something great, but they need more honing out. I would give this definitely like a 6 out of 10. That's what I'm feeling with this right now. Maybe 6.5 on a good day, but a 6 out of 10 is justified for my experience with this. And that is my review of Silent Hill the short message. Hopefully you guys really enjoyed it. I know I had some like audio issues, a little bit of like static, so please bear with me in this review, but ultimately I got it done, and hopefully you guys really enjoyed this one. So like, share, and subscribe, and tell me what you thought of Silent Hill the short message in the comments below. I will see you guys next time. Later.